Alright, so good, evil, you know these concepts. I'm putting 18 of the most relevant characters on a chart and ranking their morality. And what makes this even harder is that I can only put 2 characters in one box, so I have to force myself to make a lot of tough choices. Are ya ready, kids? So within this chart, we have to separate good and evil with the spectrum of law and chaos. Law implies honor, trustworthiness, obedience to authority, reliability. Chaos implies freedom, adaptability, and flexibility. Alright, so let's get this first choice out of the way. Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. So SpongeBob ultimately is on the side of good, and he has his own set of morals and principles that he follows, even if it is to his own detriment. In fact, SpongeBob as a show wouldn't work any other way. I know he has his moments of chaos, but I want to separate the chaos from the show and see if the character in their core is chaotic, which I think in comparison to everyone else, he's not. So let's pick the Jellyfish. This one is pretty hard. I know it's not really a character, but more so a group of different characters throughout multiple episodes, but Jellyfish as a whole is pretty significant to SpongeBob, and there's a lot of SpongeBob lore, games, episodes that wouldn't make sense without them.
I've caught and named every jellyfish in this field at least once, except you, no name.
But as far as where to put them, I'm not too sure. Part of me wants to throw them into the chaotic end because they're already primarily known for pain, but then again, there's other jellyfish that don't cause chaos, like No Name from Jellyfish Hunter, who just wanted to free his people from the factory that Mr. Krabs held, but I guess that's quite rare. You know what, I guess I'll put them in chaotic neutral for now. Alright, let's see where Karen goes. Everybody's favorite character, right? I know for sure that Karen isn't on the side of good. Not only can her character be slightly annoying, but she's technically working for the enemy even though she's over it. I mean, she makes fun of Plankton for his plans, but she also chips in plans for Plankton to do in multiple episodes. So that kind of makes Karen a little evil for both not wanting to support her husband and also working for the enemy.
You're about to have your cookies crumbled. Bring it.
And I noticed she's not chaotic, so let's put her in lawful evil for now. Alright, let's see where Sandy goes. Okay, so Sandy would definitely be on the chaotic side. No discussion, no argument from me. Loving science, extreme sports, and doing everything big like they say in Texas, you would think that she would be on the right side. I think this is another easy one though, chaotic good. She's one of the few citizens of Bikini Bottom that for the most part is on the side of good, like SpongeBob, and she could be just as rowdy as the most chaotic people that will be on this side. Ugh, alright, Gary, let's do a challenge. I know some of you are probably like, it's obvious, it's probably like here, or maybe even here for some people. I don't think we know enough about Gary to accurately say that his personality fits in one of these categories the most. I personally feel like Gary skews to the side of good more than the side of evil though. However, remember what I said earlier? Chaos implies freedom, adaptability, and flexibility. Gary has been a vigilante in the past. I know that he's an avid supporter of animal rights. He's ultimately held his own in Pet Sitter Pat. He didn't want to take a bath in the aptly titled Gary Takes a Bath. He's not someone who has morals, exactly. He kind of goes with the flow. Didn't he once leave SpongeBob just to get a cookie from Patrick?
Me running around and you chasing me. You're not chasing me.
Come on, Gary, let's go play a different game.
Okay, with all of this, I still think he should go in true neutral. Alright, Mermaid Man. First off, before we get into anything, rest in peace, rest in power, Ernest Borgnine, the voice of Mermaid Man, among a lot of other honorable accolades. The Mermaid Man character won't be the same without you. While I don't think I'd want to see another person voice Mermaid Man, the younger versions are still on the table. Type in the comments below if you'd want to see like a spin-off between like the younger Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
Your pipsqueak is getting cold. Shall I feed you?
Feed this, old man.
And I think this one is pretty open and shut. Mermaid Man definitely has the honor and integrity and follows a personal code of ethics, so I know for sure that he's on the side of good. Literally, the mere mention of evil puts his head on a swivel, so I think this is the right answer for now. And of course, you can't rank Mermaid Man without ranking Barnacle Boy after. That's like an unspoken law, but again, before we start, rest in peace, Tim Conway. So naturally, you would think that he would go into lawful good, but that's gonna create a conflict. As you see here, there's already 2 characters, and I had a rule that you can't put 2 characters in one box. I know he's lawful, but is he more good than SpongeBob or Mermaid Man to knock them down? Honestly, no. He turned on Mermaid Man because he wanted to be treated like a man, not a boy, and get a big boy sandwich, and didn't even finish it.
Actually, it's pretty big. I'm not sure I can finish the whole thing.
Yeah, this is an open and shut case. I do think that Barnacle Boy is awesome, but he does have some lawful neutral vibes being semi-retired. If it isn't the unibrow having, pangeeks feigning, rich and arrogant Squilliam fancy son. His rivalry with Squidward seems to have always been fun to watch, but where does he belong? Believe it or not, I do think he belongs under evil because he flaunts his wealth over Squidward and others for a reason that we don't know. I know the feeling is mutual because Squidward generally seems to do the same thing and try to one-up him, but we don't know that many morally good attributes about Squilliam.
Don't be intimidated, Squidward. Try to imagine him in his underwear. Oh no, he's hot!
And he also seems to be money motivated and status motivated. However, I know that he's not chaotic, so that leaves two choices left. So you know what, I think I'm gonna go lawful evil. So if we're ranking one cephalopod, we have to rank the other cephalopod. Squidward, aka the character that everyone thinks that they grow up into, but they really grow up into Patrick, is a pretty tough call, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't wanna drag him into evil just because he's the polar opposite of SpongeBob, right? Or maybe, is that the reason to do it? I mean, given that SpongeBob is kind of like the yin to Squidward's yang, I think that's fair, right? I know that Squidward does acts of kindness, even to SpongeBob, like when he stood up to the guy in pizza delivery because he felt sympathy, but there's also times like in SpongeBob You're Fired where he rescues SpongeBob purely because he hates the smell of burnt Krabby Patties, because quitting clearly isn't an option. There's also the Fools in April incident. It's not a one-way street. SpongeBob also does a lot of harmful things too.
That reminds me, there's something I've been wanting to say to you since the day we met. Goodbye.
And I think I might want to save this lawful neutral spot because I think someone else fits here better, so you know what? We're gonna put him in true neutral with Gary. I think that's fine. Pearl, daughter of Mr. Krabs, and we still don't know how any of that happened. She's considered a main character despite how little we've seen her in the grand scheme of all of the episodes of SpongeBob. You have Whale of a Birthday, which is pretty significant. She wants to impress her friends by having a conventionally cool birthday party. Or The Chaperones, where she wants to impress her friends by having a conventionally cool prom date. Or Bossy Boots, where she wants to impress her friends by having a conventionally cool restaurant hangout spot.
Give me a K-R-U! Give me a S-T-Y! Krusty Krab!
Both in the natural definition of what we would perceive to be chaos and a definition I'm going with earlier, I think I'm going to put Pearl in chaotic neutral. She's not good, but when you're a teenager, it's not common to be purely good. I mean, there's a lot of teenagers who are definitely neutral, trying to find themselves and find what they perceive to be moral. Ugh, this is getting tough. I'm gonna go with Mr. Krabs next. Originally, I was gonna put him in chaotic neutral, but we already have a problem here, as you see. So I'm gonna put him here for now. I'm gonna see who I would kick out of this trio here. So first, let me explain why I think he belongs in chaotic neutral. He doesn't like rules, he doesn't like authority, he even went against the traditional sense of being a pirate to open up his own shop and rob people of their money in a very unconventional way, but it also accentuated his strengths. And he's neutral because he really isn't on the side of good. He can let greed get in the way of him, but ultimately he won't let it blind him, knowing that it is the loyalty between Squidward and SpongeBob and him that keep the Krusty Krab as iconic.
Nice doing business with you.
Pleasure's all mine. Now get out of me restaurant.
So this may be tough, so I think I might have to bump Squidward down. So let me bump Squidward down. And out of process of elimination, I think I'm also going to bump the Jellyfish over here. So you know what, father and daughter, how wholesome. All right, Mrs. Puff, do you guys know about how the recent seasons have treated Puff and Krabs? They're like an actual thing now, consistently. It's pretty great. And it also flies in the face of the idea that there isn't an internal consistency within the show, because there is, it's just not with everything.
Who's there? I'm warning you. I have a blunt instrument here and I'm not afraid to use it.
Ugh, Mrs. Puff is weird. You have a teacher that loves her work, but the ugly and evil come out of her when she's around SpongeBob. And if you take SpongeBob out of the equation, Mrs. Puff is probably as lawful good as Mermaid Man. But considering we have episodes like Demolition Doofus where it is explicitly said that Puff wants to kill SpongeBob, we gotta throw her in the neutral category. So I know this part is getting a little crowded, so just for now, we're gonna put Mrs. Mrs. Puff in lawful neutral. So we've gotten this far without talking about the man, the star himself, Patrick Star. And there's one thing about Patrick that the show has pointed out just one time, which is that he's in the same family bloodline as Gary. And that's like such an incredible fact, and it's never explored. Like, wouldn't you guys want to know more about that family tree?
I found this ID in this wallet. And if that's the case, this must be your wallet.
That makes sense to me.
Then take it.
It's not my wallet.
Anywho, I think Patrick is going to be on the chaotic side, and I know a lot of people probably would put him in chaotic evil, but Patrick is ignorant, but he's not maliciously ignorant, at least most of the time. So I think for right now, I'm going to put him in chaotic good. There's no other place that really makes sense for him right now. Larry. So many characters named Larry. Pinhead Larry. Apparently there's a Larry SquarePants, and we got this Larry here, the lobster. Honestly, Larry is all over the place. You have SpongeGuard on duty, you were chill, you didn't want to stir up any drama, but then in Petter Pest, you want to stir some in-universe babies in your protein stew. Raw.
Baby worms?
Well, yeah.
I'll take them off your hands.
Really?
Sure, why not? That's just what the nutritionist ordered. Raw protein.
Larry, no!
Besides that one moment, I guess you can make an argument that he's been technically fine, even though we don't really see him that much. He's kind of like Pearl in that way. And I guess you can kind of call him like the cool underwater character that people look up to, but it's also a positive influence on SpongeBob, at least most of the time. So you know what? Neutral good. Why not? All right, we're down to the wire. Final four, Patchy. And just by looking at this list, I know that he's ultimately on the side of good. Now, is it worth it to bump someone from here because I think that he's more lawful good or that he's more chaotic good? Let's focus on the chaotic side. I know he isn't as chaotic as Patrick, but is he as chaotic as Sandy?
Maybe if you remember to fill the tank with gas. Oh, Putty, you're full of gas. Get out of here.
Okay, so this is a tough choice, and I'm pretty sure it's probably a mixed decision, so I think I'm gonna keep him in neutral good, because Patchy generally isn't the one giving, but actually receiving pain and humiliation, so I think it's probably best to keep him in neutral good for now. All right, Plankton. Probably the most surprising pick that I have here. I think everyone's first instinct would be to drag him to chaotic evil, but I don't necessarily believe that.
Come to Papa!
Oh boy.
Plankton, 1% evil, 99% hot gas.
While Plankton being evil is a given, he's very much about order, being corrupt, than he is about being chaotic. He isn't as lawful as Squilliam or Karen, so I think because of our definition of chaotic earlier, because I don't see him as chaotic, but definitely not more lawful than either of these two, I'm actually gonna put Plankton in neutral evil. I know people will be like, Jay, it's obvious he's chaotic evil, and if you do believe that, make sure to comment below. This is completely up to anyone's interpretation of these characters. So that leaves just one square, one category that hasn't been filled, chaotic evil. These would be for people who generally would not listen to orders, live under a standard, or follow systems, but just be as evil as the lawful and neutral counterparts. And the first person who I think is chaotic evil within the context of SpongeBob is Potty.
It's time for your flute solo.
Thank you, Putty. I almost forgot. Ah! Putty, no!
Potty takes pleasure in not following the orders of Patchy, which is why the dynamic works. Patchy is the biggest SpongeBob fan who generally has his own plans of doing things, but Potty goes out of his way not only to mess them up, but also find the mere act of messing things up enjoyable. So it's pretty clear to me, yeah, he has to stay in chaotic evil. And then the last person, in my opinion, is someone who has episodes where they're living the wild, free life. Their character doesn't represent law, order, any of that, even in the vaguest sense of the definition. And that character is none other than the Flying Dutchman. Definitely more evil than Mr. Krabs on his worst day. I mean, come on, not even in the same stratosphere of evil as Pearl. Like, Pearl is not as evil as the Flying Dutchman at all. I think he fits perfectly in that last spot. So this is my list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What would you change? What would you keep the same? I'm looking forward to your list. And until next time, guys, thank you so much for your time. Take care. Alf out.